Okay, good afternoon. I understand you had it on Pitambo. It's not as if you planned it. No, I'm not from the tax side. I know you'll be talking about tax. Okay, so I just looking at the economic outlook. The year has started quite well. We're at the end of the second month of the year. And if you notice, it's been a period of trying to achieve stability, and it seems we have. So that's why I titled this Consolidating Stability, because we were sort of below ground. We have sort of come to the ground, but that doesn't mean we have done it. We went backwards. We are sort of almost back to where we were. So the next thing is to talk about growth. Is that also? I mean, say 10 years ago, we were predicting that all the Jaga people will come back. We didn't know that there will be another serious round of Jaga. Am I correct? Some actually came back. Remember those days of Jonathan? You remember? Do you know anyone that came back? I know many that came. So we have sort of turned back again on that road. So now we are talking about how do we consolidate the stability we have and how do we grow. So we've gone into a period of macro stabilization, macro meaning on the higher level. So yes, I know that argument that Nigerians are saying they haven't felt it, and it's true, they haven't felt it. But then it starts from the macro to go to the micro. So we have done that, and that consolidation is underway now. 2026 is now a period of switch from, response to crisis to now beginning to move forward. Many Nigerians don't understand how bad it was. I mean, many Nigerians don't understand that the country was almost insolvent. That's how bad. Nigerians don't even know that we were not just at the brink, we were already falling into the hole. We were on our way to Venezuela. We just needed one small continuation of the responsible management of the economy, and we have been in Venezuela. And you know what Venezuela means? Mm-hmm. It means you enter a shop to buy medication you can't find. It means that there will be no Jardine Lake Mall and all these malls. It means that everything just shut down. It means mass retrenchment. It means that the basics you take for granted, like we are saying there's no power, that means it will even shut down completely. It means the hospitals will not even open. That's Venezuela. We were almost there. So we have passed that period of crisis. Now we have to now start beginning to venture to try to talk about growth. Okay, so that's what it is. And so far, we have maintained some policy credibility. If you've been reading the World Bank, the IMF, anybody who cares, they will tell you that Nigeria is an example of a country that has turned back very quickly. Okay, so because our policies have now become consistent, and consistency leads to credibility. Credibility leads to trust. Is that also? So we are now beginning to get some credibility. We just hope that in the next few years, I don't know what will happen with the elections, I don't know what will happen in the next few years, that we don't get someone who takes us all the way back. But we have to promise ourselves that we will not elect certain kinds of people anymore. Yeah. If somebody didn't go to school, the person didn't go to school. There's no way you can paint it or paint that. Yeah. Because guys, you don't trust someone that didn't go to school to manage something in your business, but you're asking the person to manage your country. I don't know if you're getting it. Because you don't take the country serious. The people we cannot bring to manage our poultry, or our small shop in front of our house, we are happy to let them manage the country. That is it.
Those people are the ones that decide who pays the election. That's just a problem.
The people deserve the leaders they get. The people deserve the leaders they get. So the people deserve the leaders they get. In Iran last month or so, they killed over 10,000 people, but people were protesting yesterday. They've had 492 executions this year. Most of them protesters, but people were protesting yesterday. So the people deserve the leaders they get. So we had 8 years of not just marching back or running backwards. Okay? So, but we are now in a place where there's some policy credibility. And I don't care what, because Nigerians always take it to try to religion. I don't care. The fact is, if somebody does well, he does well for all of us. If somebody does badly for all of us. And we all suffer together. But they've succeeded in letting us feel and always believe that, because my brother is there. So even if your brother is there and you're suffering, your children are not going to school, they are not eating, the opportunity set is reducing. Your brother is there. What has your brother done for you? So once we remove that mindset and say the best, no matter, even if the best is from anywhere, we don't care. Give us the person that will make us collectively better. Then we begin to solve our problem. But if we continue the way we are going, it's going to be very difficult. But at least we are better now. That's why I spoke about that policy credibility. Where are we coming from? Between 2023 and 2025, we took some very consequential macroeconomic reforms. In our history, recent history, we've not taken those kind of bold decisions. Fuel subsidy was one. Fuel subsidy was basically flawed, very badly flawed. And we should have removed it that time. Jonathan was saying we should remove it, but we finally did religion and tribes and all this nonsense to stop ourselves. Okay? Until more damage was done. The other thing we did was we unified the FX framework and the way we price FX. At some point, we had about 8 different exchange rates. We had I&E window, we had the Hajj window, we had the school fees and invisibles window, we had of course, the normal markets, that the BDC window, we had the official window for people who are not buying I&E. You know, we had all kinds of, we had customs rates. Is that also? We had all those rates, okay? So we sort of restructured the way our economy is priced, okay? It was very painful. If you know you do not feel the pain, raise your hand. Maybe you're happy or I'm looking for someone else who looks like they didn't feel the pain. This auntie here, but that hair she's wearing like this, I don't know. So maybe we feel people. But the rest of us, did we feel it? Yes, we did. We felt it was very painful, and it's still very painful today, just that the pain is easy. I saw my family, extended family, we usually do one party like that every 5th of January. So 5th of January 2025, my wife usually organizes the cooking and all that. So I saw where she wrote how much she bought rice. She bought a bag of what's that popular? Big bowl, 97,400. January 4th, 2025. January 4th, 2026, she bought the same bag of big bowl rice, 67,000. Yes, that's what she bought. That's just a proxy for what has happened. Okay. Okay, so we reset FX regime. I've talked about fuel subsidy. We had inflation at 34%. Today it's 15.1, so it has more than halved today. And CBN has achieved credibility. I mean, the central bank goes out. I have seen them outside. You know, the IMF has told us we have even gotten some ratings upgrades. That also in the country. So the central bank has got some credibility. We now want the fiscal side to also, you know, meet up. If the fiscal side meets up, then we know that the whole economy has some credibility return. Okay. And now we're in 2026, which is our stabilization phase. And what we need to do is to continue to disinflate. If inflation, CBN tells us that they want to grow single digits inflation. If we can get that, that would be wonderful. We also have to have structural reforms. Structural reforms. One of them is the wonderful executive order that our president released last Friday. You know about it, you heard about this. channeling some of those monies that have made some people billionaires and we're very sure that back into the common force. But that's the first step. The next step is using it properly. So that it will be that we are moving from a set of thieves to another set of thieves. You understand? But at least we've done the first step. Okay, so all those kind of things, and then because of that, we are seeing investor confidence coming back. We are seeing flows into Nigeria. Why do you think our FX is stabilizing? In fact, CBN had to slow it down a little because the acquisition was getting too fast. And why? You need a weak currency to encourage your exports. Today we export more than we exported last year. If you're saying it's increasing because our currency remains a bit weak. That's what Trump is doing by weakening the dollar. That's what China has done forever. They keep the Chinese yuan weak so that everybody keeps buying. So we have to also keep our own a bit weak so that our goods are let's say, attractive to foreigners. And we also want to stop you from, there was a time in this country. I remember there's this meeting I used to attend in Lagos. Once it's coming to around April, May, they say, where are you going for vacation? Where are you spending summer? We don't have summer in Nigeria. But Nigerians, bankers, who work in companies and all that, we're beginning to do as if there's summer. Somebody else is having a season that they want to enjoy summer. And you in Nigeria are calculating your vacations based on that season. I don't know if you're getting my point. Yes. Left with me, why is our primary and secondary school long vacation in June? It's because we are adopting that. We have it in December, which is the real time that we travel. Yeah. I hope you're getting my point. So at that point, everybody was like, I'm going to London for summer. Is it not true? You guys are looking at me as if I'm correct. And what was that? That was nonsense. We're spending our hard-earned FX on nonsense. But now our behavior has changed. Do you hear people talking about summer? Everybody, So that's what it is. So we have actually done a lot. That's keeping the money there discourages that importation. You only import what you really need. And it's become very fashionable for women to wear very nice. The women now that wear very nice and caramel with those big trousers. Yes. With everything. There's nothing they don't put on it. Sure. And they look very beautiful, actually. Am I correct? Yes. So some of our things here that were very fashionable are becoming more fashionable. Is that not so? Yeah. So you go to parties now and you don't see a lot of foreign foods. That's something we've achieved in Nigeria. You don't see people are even making gari and groundnut and things like that. Okay, in fact, I do it sometimes. I enter a grocery shop and I look at the foreign products. I've done that in many African countries. Nigeria remains the country with the lowest imported foods on our shelves. Yes, Nigeria remains the lowest. You go to Ghana, almost everything inside. That's why their economy is suffering. Go to South Africa, go to everywhere, imported things. That's if you stand in front of a shelf and you look at things that are Nigerian and imported. Ours is very small. I'm not saying we don't have, but it's not like what you see in other places. Because we plan to consume what we make. Okay? But we need to do more. Okay, so now let's talk about the external environment. The world, the globe is expected to grow 3.1% this year. This is the projected growth for the world, 3.1%. Modest. Inflation continues to ease around the world, and protectionism will continue. Protectionism meaning everybody is saying me. America is saying me. Even in Africa, this has remained. There's a meeting I'm supposed to attend in Cape Town, and we're having I'm on a panel. So the panel had a small meeting yesterday and then there's one woman from Uganda. So after the whole meeting, and this woman she's on the board of their central bank, she has their securities commission, she's these plenty things that the woman is. And then after the meeting, she was asking the South African, so I hope your people will give me visa. And the thing was just 18. That's pure nonsense. Do you understand? We say we want to trade in Africa, But we can't allow each other to enter each other's countries. Are we serious? We're not serious. We can't even fly between countries in Africa. It's very difficult. Sometimes you have to fly, you take Emirates to Dubai and then fly back into Africa. So these are the things. So protectionism continues around the world, but the one that is more painful is the one we're doing in Africa. Okay? Then there's also the volatility of capital flows, where still an emerging market, money will come in and go out depending on what we do. And what others do, unfortunately. So if they raise rates in America, money will flow out of Nigeria. They drop rates, money will flow into Nigeria. You know? So those kinds of things. And there's also the geopolitical tensions, the fights all over the world and all that. So these are the problems and these are the issues around the globe, and we are not separate from the rest of the world. Yeah, so we have to follow what is going on. But look at Nigeria today. We expect GDP growth this year of 4.49. This is wonderful. But it's also not good. So I'll tell you, which one do you want? Do you want the good news or the bad news? Which one do you want first? The bad news is that the population is growing by 2.26 or thereabouts, 2.6%. Your population is growing by 2.6%. So if you're growing by 4.49, it means you're not even growing by up to 2%. Because 2.6 out of that growth is to service all the new babies. So it means that the rest of the thing we're not even growing by more up to 2%. Is that also? But the good news is that this is even good. A country that has raised rates are 26.5% at the NPR, as I yesterday. Is that also? Yes. Only few countries in the world have rates that high. And when a country has rates that high, growth is usually almost zero. So it tells you about the resilience of our economy. Our economy, I believe that our GDP is much larger than what we see, because a lot of activity is not captured. It's informal. The informal sector is massive in Nigeria. If you think it's a lie, go and stand at Seme. I've done it before. You know me, my own research, I try to do it practically. I've gone to Seme board and I stayed overnight. Yes. To know what's going on. If you see trucks, if you see the number of trucks with goods, full of goods, Nigerians export, even with bike, even with keke, they have a bike park. Who has been to that center? They've been there. They have the one that you take the bike. People export goods with keke. Those ones are not captured. And that person is going to sell it in FX. Going to sell it and bring back self and change it. I hope you're getting what I'm saying. So that's why our economy continues to grow despite all these things. Remember when they predicted that we will break in 2015, remember? So these are the things that keep us going. So the economy continues to grow, that's good news. Now, the inflation target that the central bank said is 13%, 12.9, but I think we're going to go below 10% this year. I think so. So, but this is what they have said. Reserves today are 50.4 something, so 51 billion. Oil production, we expect 1.7. Today, we are at 1.54, thereabout, million barrels per day, including condensates. And then our debt to GDP is still manageable. We are one of the low, when it comes to debt to GDP, we are one of the lowest in the world. Okay, so at 35. Yes, but that doesn't mean we should stop shouting. You understand? The problem with our debt is that we don't see it, we don't see the use. That's why our debt is bad. Japan has debt to GDP of 200 and something percent, almost 300%. But when you go to Japan and you see what they have used it for. South Africa, very large debt. Everybody large debt. But our own, the one we are borrowing, where is it? Japan. I mean, somebody took ways and means of 30 trillion. Please, can you point at 30 trillion on the ground? Our former president took ways and means almost 30 trillion naira. Can you just point out and say this is what we built it for? This is the money. Can you just show me? So people were just changing it and buying houses in America and buying in the UK and buying private jets and because if you can tell me we built a new city or we took care of rail or we took care of power and then we are owing 30 trillion, I said okay, we'll use that one to be at least we can say okay, these are 30 trillion. Why can 30 trillion just disappear into thin air? I hope you get what I'm saying. So that's why I started by saying we have to be careful about who we ask to lead us. We have to be very careful. Okay. Drivers of expansion in 2026, all the areas that we think that move. So you have to pay attention there. ICT and fintech will continue to expand. So if you're into ICT, if you're into fintech, there's still more room to expand. Why? Because we are ahead of many countries. We have a large population, a large market. But apart from that, we're also ahead. So we can take over the region, we can take over Africa. You go around Africa, Nigerian fintech companies are doing a lot. So there's that room for expansion. You have 1.5 billion people country. So that one will continue to go on. Then there's also gas-led industrialization. We're seeing a lot of good news on the gas side. LNG continues to do well, but we are still discovering more gas deposits. So that's also an area that will work. Then the oil sector stabilization, or those are the oil sector, but also trade and commerce. Once you have stable FX, trade becomes possible. Because once FX, you can predict, you can say, oh, FX is not going to be more than 1.4 or 1.3. So it's unlike before, in the recent past, you could not predict that, which was why once you get in, you can buy dollar and keep. Am I correct? You're keeping dollar now, you're just going to be making losses. Yes. So that business of keeping dollar, my advice, don't quote me, but my advice is, doesn't make sense anymore. Because you're just going to, imagine those that are kept at 1.6. So we're buying when it was 1.6. Am I correct? I remember a conversation I had with somebody. I told her that, this dollar, the way I'm seeing it, I think it's going to go down. I'm going to go and sell all my dollar. I went, I sold it 1,595. 1,595. She said, can you sell your dollar? It will always work. Dollar will always work. Okay. True, the thing went back to 1,650, 1,780. You know, 1,7. You remember that time? Yes. I started feeling bad, but I said that no, my analysis is correct. I don't care about the small volatility. It's a long-term play. And maybe she's still holding the dollar now. And 1.3 something. And now if she wants to sell it now, she has to negotiate it. Will you collect 1.34? You know? So trade is going to continue to do well. And the best kind of trade now is export. Anything you can export. Somebody showed me one bowl of fufu. You know that fufu in Gariki Market? I've been to that back of Gariki Market where they pack fufu well. You've not been there? So all of you are there. You know all the fufu, if you go there, you'll be chopping fufu in all these mama foods. They found it whether it's doing or somewhere and pack it in back. Only one bowl in the UK. Somebody was selling £1. How much is £1 in Nigeria? Almost 2K. How much is that food here? So that means that the person who was able to export one of those, let's say shipping, and let's say he buys 100 naira or 200 naira, it's not up to 200, I'm just saying 200. Shipping and everything 200, that's 400. And let's even say £1 is 1.8. You've already cleaned out how much? 1,004 or 150. So anything you can make and export now is good. And now central bank is also even supporting it by keeping FX stable and keeping naira a bit weak. So now support that export activity. So that's the best thing you can do. The best trade now is exports. Okay? That's if you want to trade. Okay, then there are also the structural growth channels that we expect because there will be productivity gains because there's now more efficiency in the things we are doing. And this is that one I was saying, export competitiveness because of the exchange rates. There's that export competitiveness. And then there's credit expansion. You see that yesterday the CBN governor announced that banks have raised 4 trillion. Am I correct? Hello? Yes, sir. Did you read into it? It means that there's not more 4 trillion that can create credit. I hope you know that. But that is when rates start to fall. When rates start to fall. So there's now 4 trillion that was not there before. That is there. Part of it is 700 and something announced billion that is from abroad. About 1 point something trillion. $700 some million, about 1 point some trillion, 1.2 or so they are now. That is from abroad. Okay, so there's new money inside Nigeria available to banks for lending. So the question is, do I have a bankable project? Do I have something that I can take advantage of? I'm not saying borrow now, don't borrow now because rates are still high. But as inflation drops, rates must drop. So if you're looking towards third quarter this year, rates are going to drop. So, but you won't wait till that time to begin to develop your concepts, to begin to try out your ideas. Remember how to do the ideas. You start with family and friends first. Is that also? Yeah. So now is the time to do that. So that by the time rates are lower, you are ready to take credit to expand. Bank credit is not for building, it's for expansion. Is that not so? So think about that. Credit expansion and then sectoral allocation, allocate to sectors that are moving, which I have told you before what sectors they are. Am I correct?
Yes.
So I've told you about digital services, fintech. I've told you about trade, exports. Those are areas. If you have money, oil and gas. Oil and gas remains one of the best sectors. Is that not so? So this is the disinflation pathway that we are seeing. By the way, I got all this from the CBN outlook for the year. Okay, so this is after a lot of work and with the data that they have. So they feel that inflation will continue to fall. This is them saying it. Inflation is supposed to continue to fall. So if inflation continues to fall, it means that interest rates will fall. If interest rates fall, it means that credit will be available. If credit is available, it means that growth will happen. Okay, so these are the things that you need to know. Food inflation has fallen, food has fallen, prices of food have fallen. If you agree with me, those are going to the market, am I correct?
Yes.
Prices of food have fallen. Energy prices will become favorable. If you look at it, there was a time petrol was inching up to 900. It's now stable around 7 something. Am I correct? What is it now? Okay. So, but the way it was going before, we thought it would pass 1,000. What you notice is stable. One very important thing in economics is stability. Because that means you can plan. You understand? It's when you don't have stability that is a problem. Okay? So distribution chains are improving and all that. So it's important that we continue to position for all these things. I don't want to talk about tax. If you notice, I didn't put tax. For the people who attended the one I did in January or February, I talked about that. But I know that tax people are finished. So there's something about tax now. So now we have an FX market that is working. People don't understand the implications of having reserves. When you have reserves, foreigners are able to do business with you because they know that when your country opens an LC, that LC has value. Is that also? So whether you're an importer or you're an exporter, the reserves help you. I remember one governor, I won't say who he is, you all know him very well. He used to be a governor. So I remember where I read that he said, why are we even keeping reserves? They should bring it and share. Because many people don't understand that the fact that a Dangote is able to borrow $10 billion is because the lenders know that he's going to earn naira for sure, but there's reserve to change that naira to dollar to pay them. Dangote has nothing to do with the reserves, but without the reserves, he can't do business. You yourself that you want to open an LC and import a generator from China or a car from the US, it is based on the reserves that they're able to give you that. I hope you know that. So the bigger your reserve, the more business and business entities in your country can do abroad. So that's the implication. So growing reserves is a good thing. Okay. So we have a unified FX framework. I've talked about it. And there's one more thing going for Nigeria that is helping us now. It's remittances from abroad. For me, I know we have the remittances, we are happy with them, but I know that it's going to end one. And I keep saying it. When there's a generational shift. So I have my wife's cousin lives in the US, we're going to visit her. So in that house, their mother, that's my wife's cousin's mother. Woman is 99. She lives there. Then the cousin, that her cousin, she's 65 thereabouts. Then she has 3 sons. Of the 3 sons, only one has been to Nigeria. And he just came, spent 2 weeks and left. Those people are never coming back. That their father, that's the husband of that grandmother, is 99, built a house here. They don't even know who lives there. They have a big white house in the village. People have just moved in because no single member of the family. I'm talking about this lady, all her siblings, all. She has 1 sister and I think 3 brothers. 3 brothers and 1 sister. They all live in the US with all their children. So now, when their parents, that woman that is 99 was in Nigeria, they were sending money to her. Then finally, when their father died, they came and took her. Are they still sending money? Okay. So let's even say that my wife's cousin will send to some people she knew. She grew up there. So maybe my wife and her cousins and few people. Is that also? When she dies, you see that those are 3 sons to send money. Eh? So you see, that's diaspora remittance is going to stop, okay, unless we keep supplying the world. And do we want to keep supplying them? Because the problem with it is that they take the best. If they were to take labor, I can just go to area 1 and give them labor. All those people shouting, just give them those ones. But they don't take those ones. They even have a point system in Australia and Canada where they pick the best. And we'll be struggling to give them the best. So someone starts to do medicine. Nigeria is one of the cheapest, if not the cheapest in the world to do medicine. Yeah? People go to school, to a university in Nigeria to read medicine, and school fees is 175 and they are protesting. 175K. That is $120. Do you know how much tuition is in the UK for that? £45,000. £50,000 each of you. You are not paying for accommodation, food, books, all those ones. Do you understand? So that guy, so who do you think is paying the extra in Nigeria? It's government. And government is first, they are underpaying the teacher, the lecturer. Do you understand? But government is still providing everything. Now your 175,000 or 200,000 cannot pay for your medical education. So now, after the country has paid all that, we now dash it to somebody. Are you getting it? The only thing we get back is those remittances. But those remittances depend on that person continuing to have people here that send. So the moment that ends, that person just faces them. So I do not think that we should continue to expect remittances unless we continue to have periods that like the period we have had in the past 5 years. I think you know many people that have gone to Canada and different places in the past 5 years. Am I correct? No. Or if we have such periods again, which we should all collectively say God forbid, then we're going to keep having remittances. Is that okay? So yeah, remittances, but like I said, put in the comma there. And then portfolio flow recovery. I've talked about foreign portfolio investors who are trooping into Nigeria in droves now, billions of dollars coming in. And then the quality reserves, there's a focus on the quality of our reserves. So these are the things that we are seeing. Now let's go to the capital market. You know the capital market is doing quite well. The stock market, though it has lost some things, but just a market correction. Capital market has delivered over 20% this year. If you have kept your money in the capital market for the past 5 years, you have done more than 200% return, which our capital market is one of the best performing. Our stock market is one of the best performing in the world. And it continues to do well. And it will continue to, because for a long time, our companies have been undervalued. If you go and look at the key ratios of our companies, they're undervalued because you cannot do better than the country in which you are. So there's that deficit, that cap, that deficit that our companies have just because they are Nigerian companies. But as those obstacles are being removed, the real valuations come in. And that's why you're seeing those companies growing. So if you have put your money in stock market, congratulations, you have done quite well. There are still
some stocks that are overvalued. Yes.
I don't think so. But some play. Hold on. There's a correction now. That's why I'm saying overvalue. They are all undervalued. The thing is, the stock market will go and correct. Or go. That's why you don't look at it on a monthly basis or quarterly basis. For stocks, you have to look at it on 2, 3 year, 5 year horizons. So if you have a short-term view of the market, you'll be having that. If you are checking the price of the stocks every day, your heart just beats. So stocks, you don't use money that you need to do stocks. If you use money that is a long-term play, okay, long-term play, money you don't really need immediately, you know that you can need for years, and that's when you gain. Somebody was writing that one company, I can't remember the name of. Then it's good that you remember the name so that you won't say I does it. So the person bought it 3 naira 68 cup, and the company now 253 naira. Person bought it 7 years ago at 3 naira 68 cup. Company now 250. So just imagine now. You bought 1 million shares. They are bought it 3.68 million. Your 3.68 million for 3 months, you didn't do anything, you just put 3.68 and forgot about it. It's now 253 million naira. I think that's a good for a 7-year person. For 3 months, you didn't do anything, just put the money and forgot about it. Then somebody said it's very hard to put it and forget about it. It used to. You see why stocks is a long friend. You need a lot of this. It's hard. That you need something and you remember that you have that one.
Many of you can do what's only I think what sometimes the deep because sometimes if you look at how for instance Manchester buy a cup for like maybe 7 naira at the point it went out to like 5 naira. Then you can sell it at that time. And that period cannot sell it. If they don't give it there.
And that's why they don't because it's 7 it can go to 5. I'm scared. From 9 it can go to 10, 11, let me sell. So once I think that it makes so much money. But if you just leave it there and forget about it, like people who do a lot are like people who buy it for their children. Some people will say, okay, this child was born, so I'm putting 1 million. And then see when the child is 18. By the time the child is 18, that money has come 150 million or 100 million.
So, Sam, I'm saying that the popularity in the stock market right now, it's driving, the sentiment is driving higher returns now because people are not careful about the value of the
They're just buying now. So
like they've turned it to MM.
There's a bubble.
They've turned it to MM. Yes, so like that's why I said that
they're overvalued.
Most stocks are overvalued.
But the problem, it has been proven that spending time in the market is better than timing the market. What do I mean by timing the market? Waiting for when the stocks go fall. You see the problem there? Because human beings behave like birds, buffalo, when they're running, all of them come together. If you say, I will not invest, and I want to wait till it falls, that time is falling. Everybody has a poor sentiment about the market. You will not be able to go out because nobody wants to go and put somewhere that the value is falling. Except people. That's why people who become rich from the stock market have to have, so it's also have to be strong. Because it is when others are running the way, when things are falling, that you have to feel your hand. It is when people are entering, when things are high, you are going. It's not easy to do. Because nobody is God. You don't know whether something that was sold for 500 naira has fallen to 250. You don't know if it will stay for 250 naira. You now be waiting, and before you need it to go up again. So you must have that. So that's why some of us advise anytime you have money to put stock, put that for it. And over time, that has been proven to be because of human behavior. That has been proven to be the best. Just put it and forget. So, because if you start saying, yes, you're correct, it's overvalued now, but if you start waiting for it to be overvalued, you will never do it. Unless you are strong and you are disciplined, you are can tell yourself that once this thing gets to this, I'm doing it and I'm not looking back. Otherwise, the best time to do it is whenever money enters your life, no matter what is happening in the market. Do you understand what it was? I wish I knew this question was going to come. I have a very good story somebody put on LinkedIn and I read it. It compared somebody who went when the market was low and grew to somebody who just put the money out. You found out that he used $10,000 and he moved it for at least 17 years or so. And he found out that the person, 27 years, he found out that the person who just put his money anyhow and forgot about it, and at the $1.5 million at the end of it. The person who was able to gain the market, that time the market properly, got 1.7 million something. The person who didn't put that, or who was got 0. So he was saying that the only difference between the guy who did it carelessly or left it there and the guy who was perfect, and you know nobody is perfect, was only about 200,000. So he says it's not better that you are careless and get your money there. So he was talking about all the times that stock market has fallen and risen. That the guy who did there and forgot about it. When he went down, he went down. When he went up, he went up. Until he retired. And he calculated and saw that it was better off than somebody who was waiting for the perfect moment, which never comes. You get the point? Okay, so we have the banking recapitalization coming up. So there are about 4 trillion has entered and more money coming. So as of today, 4 trillion and more has come because it's 31st March. That is the deadline. Okay, we also have the yield curve reform. This is for finance, real finance people. If you're into fixed income investing and all those, you know that we are adjusting our yield curve now. What it means is that we have issuances at different maturities on the yield curve, and we are becoming more predictable. Let's put it that way. In the bond side, on the bonds are also good. I saw. I'll give you an example. You see, if you have money in this country and you know what to do, you very well. Just about 6 months ago, Nigerian bonds were yielding, let's say 9 months ago. Nigerian bonds were yielding as much as 22%, 24%. Those same bonds today are yielding 70%. That means that somebody that went in 9 months ago have over extra 7%. And now if it's a 10-year bond, you invested 1 million. So that extra 7% means 70,000 compounded for 10 years. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. 70,000 compounded for 10 years. If you compound 70,000, which I had my calculator, you see that money becomes a lot. And this is in addition to what the normal 17 that you are getting. So it's just crazy. The amount of money that you can make if you know how to put and remove cash. You understand? That's why when I teach people personal finance, I say you want to be wealthy, you must have a portion that you take out without considering that it's your salary. That's the way to be wealthy. So if your salary is say 500,000, you must tell yourself that your salary is say 350, and the 150 goes out without. You don't even count. You can't even do what do they call it? Direct debit. So it doesn't even come because if your salary was 350, you still be living on the 350. You get my that's only very hard to do. Very hard because one day there's school fees to pay, or there's house rent, something big, or what we regard as big. Do you understand? And the first place your mind goes is where? That place. You know, my father was telling me that I'm a gun owner. But when he was alive, he used to say, don't ever own guns. Don't ever own guns. And I asked him why. He said he was a gun owner when he was younger. Then he found out that anytime he quarrels with somebody, the first place his mind goes, this is gone. Who is a gun owner here? Nigerians don't like to say that they own a gun. No, you can own a gun with license. I mean, a licensed gun owner. But and it doesn't happen to me like that, like man. Because I kept the gun where it would be hard to get. Before I would even do any wahala to bring it out, my anger would have gone down. But my father told me that every time he quarrels with somebody, even road rage, you just think if my gun was here now. And then this guy is like, so one day he went and bedded people. I kept asking, where did you keep that? Never told me till he died. Yes, and he didn't have God. So if you're the type that any small thing, you are thinking about that your investment. That means you're not that God I'm talking about. So you have to look at that. And then the foreign participation in the market is rising. But also, I talked about the fiscal side. So I'm sure you've talked a lot about revenue, government revenues, I mean, with the tax book. So government revenue, debt and fiscal sustainability is a problem. Nigeria still has very low tax to GDP, one of the lowest in the world, one of the lowest in Africa. And Africa has very low tax to GDP. But we don't pay tax. Think about it. How many of us have some side hustles? Like you sell hair. You know, you sell hair, say you won't say. You don't know if I want to buy it. You sell cosmetics.
Yeah, that's it.
You sell perfume oil. You know that perfume oil that women sell. Raise your hand. You don't want to say. Okay, you make hair, or you sell ashwebi, or you sell packaging or you sell small chops. We all have that in Nigeria. Now, every Nigerian has one side hustle. You know, you pay your tax on those. Raise your hand. Not one single Nigerian pays tax on the side. If you go to ministry, somebody comes, everybody in the office knows that they sell chat card. Do you understand? And they'll be complaining seriously about the tax taken from their salary. They do not remember that they had a chat card. They're supposed to also pay tax. It's not how it does. So I'm selling Kuli now. I already assume that it should not be taxed. So. It's not true. Somebody said
That's somebody.
that's something. Can you imagine?
Yeah, that's what I was
No, you're supposed to abroad if you're doing those kind of, you're supposed to every year you fill a tax return and say how much you earn, how much you're going to pay, and you pay it. So that's why our tax is very low. So please, when they come for you for tax, please pay it. It's very important. Then, so they continue to mobilize revenue, but they have a constraint. But a lot has happened. We have the Nigerian Tax Act, all those laws that I can tell you about for the tax. The fiscal deficit remains at 3% of GDP, which is why central bank no longer gives the federal government ways and means. Debt to GDP is 34.7, and the NMPC contributions to the federation have improved. Even this executive order 9, this one on Friday, will even increase it more. Because some money that they were sidelining will now be going into the federation.
Oh, I hope cool loss will not increase with that executive order.
You see, you know the thing. There's something I believe. I believe that all those losses and debt cannot happen without the people in power being responsible. So the moment the person in power says, "I'm no longer doing and nobody should do," everybody will stop. You understand? So once the person in power is saying no more, then it will stop. It's just like you're allowing something to be happening in your house. No matter how difficult people say that it is to stop that happening in your house, the day you, the father, decide that thing is stopping, it's stopping. That's what it is. So wherever we all see, as the days go by, we'll see. Okay, so the other one is policy architecture, the core reform pillars that we have. We have the FX market reform, the banking capital from CBN side, the tax from the fiscal side, which you have talked about, the implementation of the PIA and this executive order that happened. These are all the things that we expect that will be pillars that will help us. Capital flows will continue to come into infrastructure, into energy. If you notice, we've had a boom in our real estate markets. Is that also? But the problem is that we don't have enough people who can even occupy the real estate.
Yes.
But that's what happens when you are a fast developing country. If you go to China, it's the same. I have gone and I have seen, we see house, a place that you drive 15 minutes. That's your next express. You're driving 15 minutes and you're seeing houses that are 40 story and the same kind of house and nobody inside. Yes, nobody inside. Because these are the things that happen. real estate, when the economy is recovering, real estate booms. But the people don't have enough money to move. But the people now, as the economy keeps getting better, people now begin to have money and they begin to move. So what is happening now in our country is not strange. I hope you get what I'm saying. It's part of the recovery process. So, but we need to, where we are now missing it is that we're not providing infrastructure that people need. You know, we are not providing infrastructure to bring out agricultural produce from the places. We are not providing infrastructure to produce. There's no power, there's no transportation, you know, we need rail, we need roads, we need, and sometimes I still wonder why we cannot provide. This rail and roads are easy to provide. There is. So it still baffles me that we're not able to. Because think about it. If you sell the concession for a road from say Lagos to Abuja, new road, not the former one, new road, brand new road, many people would rush to buy it. You know how many vehicles fly Abuja to? So don't touch the government road, give them another route and tell them to create a new road. Then let us say now that driving from Abuja to Lagos would cost me 10,000 in toll gates. Do you think I will not pay? I will pay if the road is good. Because if you follow that one that government owns, the repair we do is more than 10,000. Is that also? So now if you can make 10,000, the company can make 10,000 on one vehicle times the number of vehicles that go every day. You know how much it will be. So if you sell in a populated country like Nigeria, you sell concessions for rail, you sell it. And Nigerians are ready to pay the service works. It was proven in telecoms. Telecoms is proof. When I finished the service, I started a business in Kwara, in Ilorin. Who knows Ilorin? So I can tell you this times. You know Ilorin. I had a shop in Taiwo Road, not far from teaching hospital. It was 223 Taiwo, proper Taiwo. Taiwo, okay, yes, Taiwo. I had a store, and I needed a phone line from Nigeria. I applied for phone line. They said there's none. That when one comes out, they tell me. So one day, Nigeria calls me and said I should come. I went. They said they had that one line came out in Cranke. You know where I said yes. That okay? Who can describe that? Because I from here to Jagna or something very far. That I should go and buy wire. Oh. Yes, I know it wasn't GSM now. It's wire now. That's green. So I should go and buy wire to take it from Cranke to Taiwo. But that's how inefficient our telecoms was. Suddenly, before you know it, government started selling licenses. The same Nitel was the only company that had the backbone, the infrastructure to run telecoms. So MTN was renting from Econet was renting from Nitel. 2 years later, when Glo joined, they were renting. Yes, Nitel failed. All those ones have built their own infrastructure and they are powering and Nitel failed. So Nitel was like 100 meters in front in the race for 200 meters. And the C came and passed and Nitel died. So, how did MTN and Co do it? If you know you bought your SIM card 20-something or 30-something, all that money, that $285 million and MTN paid, we all paid it back. I bought my SIM card 21,000. I went to SIM card, this 100 naira SIM card. That was how we got their money back. So we showed the telecoms that we are ready to pay if the thing works. Today, we take it for granted. Many of us do just take phone telephony. We don't remember those days we used to go and queue. International, you buy call card, you put it in, before you know it is finished, you buy another one. Is that also? Yes. We take it for granted. So when something works, we are ready to pay. So imagine we go and say, okay, the same way we sold telecoms lines, telecoms licenses, we are selling rules. The same way. And you know, we did it transparently, it's not by highest bidder, it was an auction. Remember, it was an auction, which was why Glo didn't get initially. How did Glo get? they did auction. They were auctioning 3 licenses actually. No, two initially. So Glo, all of them, they did auction, and MTN and Econet won. If you remember. That was why MTN and Econet were the only ones that had. Then Glo now started saying no. Then they are ready to pay that amount that those people said. You know, Glo didn't win the auction, and they didn't even participate. They participated, they lost. But they were brought in because they are Nigerian. Econet was this not Zimbabwean guy. What's that his name? Stripe. And then MTN was South Africa. So Glo was really Nigerian company. So when after they had won 185, not 200, $185 million. So Glo now started saying, okay, I'm ready to pay the 100. It was in paper, everyone was saying, why won't you give him this Nigeria? That was why they gave. You understand? And now we are paying for it. And we are ready to pay it tomorrow, as long as it's working. And if one is not working, what do we do? Switch it. So imagine doing it for rail, doing it for road, put it to work. So maybe power has a complication. But road and rail, I'll tell you, but that's not the class for you, but I can tell you. Go on.
So I'm saying that competition drives effectiveness.
Yes.
So how does that apply to this infrastructure thing?
No, competition will work because it will not be companies. The roads will be companies. Those companies will be sold on the stock exchange. This thing I'm telling you is not that I'm taking it. I've seen it work. It works in Malaysia. There are 36 roads in Malaysia, long roads like this Lagos and Abuja, that are owned by companies, different companies. Those companies are on the stock exchange. If your road is not well maintained, people will stop using it. They forget anything. There's rail. See, you're competing with, if you own a road, you're competing with rail because rail will pass down your road. You're competing with air. Do you understand? You're competing with air, you're competing with rail. Remember that if your road is bad, the less money you get. Like today now, how many of you will drive from here to Lagos? How many of you are using road to Lagos? Really few. Because bad road, kidnapping, all the things. Is that also? Those companies, they protect the road. They have rest areas or whatever they call, where they have malls and all that. So they have ancillary services. They are building real estate on their road, off their roads. So they can develop small towns and sell the. So there's a lot of business in the thing. So you don't even want your own to be bad, it will be competitive. And before you know it, someone will be saying, no, but do you know you can connect Lagos through Apanda? Why are you passing through Lokoja? Because the company that owns the one through Apanda wants you to, they'll be advertising for you to pass their route. I don't know if you're getting. So there's competition. There's not only one way to from Abuja to Lagos. I remember that all those other ways are owned by other companies who will be advertising that you should follow it because they want you to pay the toll gate. So there's competition in it. Rail lines in UK, all these UK is owned by them. It's all nice companies now. They're owned by companies. So why can't we replicate? Why is government still building rail? Why? That's my question. I always ask. I know why, but I'm just asking. No, why is corruption now? Those are the biggest projects you can steal money. There's no project like bigger than road. Think of it, which project will be like bigger than road? Airports, those airports that governors are doing. Those are the projects you steal money. So, okay, so infrastructure. Sorry, I think I've exceeded my time, Abby. So we'll soon start. So, and then I talked about deepening the fixed income market. Some of us don't know that we can buy bonds. How many of us have bond rules? You know, federal government sells bonds, you can buy, they are good. But you buy T-bills,
Yes.
just think of T-bill, but now longer term.
But the banks are sweetening us.
How?
They say as middleman, the rate market is different from the rate they offer.
Go and put your money in a mutual fund. Because banks, the minimum purchase you can make for T-bill is 50 million. If you don't have up to 50 million, the banks, what they do is to aggregate and then say buy it in their name and share them. But if you go and put in a mutual fund, they are competing with other mutual funds to perform. They are going to give you the best possible execution. So banks are not the best to buy T-bills from. They are going to swindle you. And it's not swindle, it's their business model. It's you that chose to go to them. They are not the most efficient when it comes to buying investments.
But the margin should something.
No, I don't think so. It's business. Well,
Mr. Please, I just want to ask, I know those things, especially in Atlanta.
Yeah.
If you see an average last person, generally, in terms of investment, people do this capital market, finance. But these days, it seems the orientation is getting, I don't know, it's coming down serious. You see people with free liquidity now, property.
because property seems to be only, like I said, it's the time. But the problem with property is that it promises more than it delivers. I'll give you an example. Let's say we are in an estate now, and they say, "Oh, God has sold his house for 200 million." Everybody will say, house there, one story there, one duplex there is 200 million. It's the day you put your own to sell. You understand that? You understand? So it promise there's a lot of noise, but please don't put all your money in real estate. So let me tell you the thing. Your wealth and your investment and your job, everything should be one portfolio. One portfolio. For instance, I don't do a lot of bond investing because I have a 9 to 5 job, and that job pays me salary. So that salary is like a bond investment. So I would think that I've invested in bonds. Not that I won't do bonds, but I won't do so. I need something more risky because I have a stable. If you don't have a stable job, then you can't take much risk. But if you have a stable job, you can take much risk with your extra funds. So I can invest in equities, or I can invest in my own business. If you're the type that does business, like own a shop, you buy hair, you sell liquidity. Those ones are more. So many people are laughing at me. No, I have a friend. I have a friend there earlier.
Yes.
They wrote me to tell that we have a friend, a mutual friend that exports liquidity to us. So the house that used to be a colleague. So one day I said, bring quickly for me, now brought something small, something like this. Well, package, you see package. If I go to where they sell quickly in the market, that quickly cannot be open 1,000. In the package, I sold it 5K. That was, yeah, and then respecting that business. It was in the package, they come 1,000 naira quickly to 5K.
I will invest so.
One day, somebody traveled and brought back a picture of that curriculum in a shop abroad. So we will be using, the woman told us that the curriculum makes many times her salary. But look at us and laughing, curriculum. See all these small business that you do now. You package it well. I just told you somebody got the bright idea to sell one fufu, one fufu. We just calculated the margin now. And the Nigerians there will eat it because they don't even know. I remember when I used to go to Hong Kong, they would say, when I travel abroad, I don't like to go to Nigerian restaurants, but they're selling nonsense. Yes, most Nigerian restaurants are abroad. They don't sell the way because they are preserved and preserved and preserved. It's not fresh. For me, coming from Nigeria is nonsense, but for them living there, man, is the best. So, but people selling this thing make a lot of money. If you see all those Pakistani people that sell yam in London, yes. Go to East London, they sell yam and see everything. If you see the prices, you see that it's not small business. And there must be somebody in Nigeria arranging it and exporting it. Because it's the Pakistani is not coming here to buy it from them. Anytime you go to East London, you see, no, shop, yam. They're the ones who sell that food on £1. They are laughing. Okay, so there's a woman in Atlanta that sells meat pie. Meat pie. You have to book 2 weeks in advance. So I'm not joking. She sells meat pie and moi moi. That time I went to my wife's cousin's house. They say, I will book meat pie and moi moi. When they brought it in,
You know, the way they were, man, we buy money. The way they were excited. And I thought it was when, you know, when they brought it in, I just get face sharp and shop. But for them, it was one kind, you know, the woman doesn't pay tax. They say the woman is evil, doesn't have papers, doesn't. So that's why you can't come to her house. She has to deliver to you because she doesn't want you to know where she is. All this kind of thing. So yeah, you can do that. So I've talked about fixed income, then logistics and the digital economy. These things are happening. Nigeria, Africa is a young market. I've been around Africa. It's everywhere you go, young people everywhere. Meaning that those things are planned that appeal to young people who sell. If I had money, I'll set up where they make cars. You can see how it must be. No, all of them, they will do well. Because all these millions of children were giving them to drive. Clothes, food, all those things are young people. And then think about fintech. Why is it that in a country where we've had banks like UBA, First Bank, Flutterwave and this are more valuable? Do you know that are more valuable than UBA and First Bank as Zenith? Why do you think it's so? Money politics. It's the population. Nobody wants to go and be wasting time collecting tally in bank like we used to before. People just want. So those guys have seen that. Why do you think that social media is used to all this TikTok, dancing, and all this? Because that's what appeals to the young people. Life expectancy in Nigeria is 54 for women, 49 for something, so 50 for men. Of course, women die at time. Okay, read down and say this is men, but women from 4 years old. You understand? So, but because people are dying at something, that means that the people remaining are quite young. Say that. Somebody told me that in Port Harcourt there's no landlord, only landlady. Is it like that every day? Is that every day? Okay. Okay, so you have to think about things that e-commerce, logistics, fintech, those things will continue to do well as long as our population is young. If you go to Germany and you're doing those ones, or Japan, because people are old and they don't have young people, so some businesses will work. But businesses that involve fashion, that involve sports, that involve food, because who eats more, the young person or the good person? Entertainment. That's why you see this Dirty December. It will keep growing because it's appealing to the young. Yeah, so those ones. So now we have downside risk. It's not everything that is still okay. We still have our structural vulnerabilities. Still have our issues. We have our election year. Don't know their behavior. The FCT election is a sample of that. The behavior has not changed. Is that not so? We still saw policemen throwing tear gas to voting units. We still saw some of the ballot snatch and all those ones. It means that things are not. So the vulnerabilities remain. We have some disruptions that can happen. We still depend for our effects on a product over which we have no pricing power. You know, oil, we have no pricing power. The worst thing that can happen to you is to depend on a product that someone else determines. That's what's going on. I think that if we can go back to those products that we can actually control, you know, there are products we control in the world. There are not many, but we are not paying enough attention to them. Cashew, we are still the biggest one. You know, small products, but they mean something if we pay attention to them. Ginger, all these kind of agricultural products that we have absolute control. If we do more in that, do you know that we still import corn syrup into Nigeria? We still import palm oil into Nigeria. If you have been to Malaysia, to Kuala Lumpur, so as you're entering to your landing at the airport, up to where your eyes can see. They got it all from there. Today, we are not able to service Cola and PZ and all those people. They are importing palm oil. We don't have enough. So, but these things are growth areas. You know, Malaysia built an economy on the same day, on this palm oil. Okay, so there are some downside risks that we are going to see this year, but we still have to keeping at it. So there's a fiscal monetary coordination that we expect from the central bank and Ministry of Finance. which will benefit the country. I won't talk about the tax base. I'm sure they've told you about it. If we keep enlarging it, it's important that our government has money. Let's say we don't have it, then the next is for us to hold them to account. You understand? There are two things. We as citizens have to give them money by way of tax. But the question, one of the reasons why we don't follow up our governments, we don't hold them to account that we don't pay enough tax. If you pay enough tax, you're going to take it serious when somebody misuses it. Because the tax we pay, Nigeria is one of the effective tax we pay. Is very low. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're working here, full age, and they give you, they take tax of 20%. But you're selling your hair or something, and that's also half of the time you're not paying any tax. It means that your effective tax is 15%. That's what it is. So we don't pay tax that pains us. If you pay tax that pains you, then you're going to go and hold down the government chairman, that government plan. That's why if you go to all those countries where they pay 40%, like the UK, just that on US, Kash Patel, the chairman of the FBI, he was in Italy for something. Then they were doing the Winter Olympics. Then America won the men's hockey. And he was around. Not that he came because of the hockey. He just went and wore their jersey. I was joking that they are debating that why should he went on music on taxpayer money. Why should he go and be holding there and shout? But our own people, we use our money, fly business class or first class, go and watch football and do same. The man is already in the city, he was already there. Just the only thing is that maybe he took a car from his hotel to the place, and then they want to. He used cash used taxpayer money to go and celebrate. And what was he celebrating? That they won. We our senator, they do massage for private jets. Okay, so yeah. When we move the girl has been trying to release more video. Okay, so we really need to put them to account. Okay, and then the stability oversight that we need to do. So that's it. If there's any question, comment on outlook for the economy?
So am I right to say that one of we are able to identify in terms of our business structures is changing administration?
Yeah.
Economic and fiscal.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean this could be negative or positive, like those and investment. So I'm also right to say that because there's no continuity, every administration is coming.
Because we don't have now institutions.
Yes. So
Let me
that's
tell you why we don't have continuity. We have strong people with institutions. Because if you have strong institutions, everybody will come and join the queue and behave. Because the institutions will not care who you are. I'll give you an example. President Trump, in his former tenure, appointed the Fed chair, Jerome Powell. That's like the CBN government, their Fed chair. By the time he was about to leave, he didn't like the man again. When he came in second term, in fact, during his campaign, he was saying that he's going to fire the man. When he came in second term, he didn't like the man because he asked the man to bring down rates. The man said to the central bank remains independent, the government cannot tell central bank what to do. So Trump said, I don't like your remove it, but Trump could not remove it. So now Trump has appointed a new Fed chair, everyone, but the guy can't take over until Powell's tenure is over in May. That's a strong institution. The president said, I don't like what you're doing, I will remove you, but he can't remove him. So that way, that guy will do what he thinks is best. But in Nigeria, the president will just do as he likes.
very emotional.
I hope you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you're not in his party, or you have him, or something, they just remove him. So if you have strong institutions, like INEC now, INEC is a very weak institution. Because if INEC was strong, they don't care whether you are president, whether you are anything. They just do their job to the best of their ability. So that's why we have that problem.
So now, given that we've identified the issue, how do we as an individual and business plan around? Because now when you're planning, I know this is an annual, it's going to. But like I said, next year, as I mentioned, we don't even know what will change because the games things are very unstable and all that. How do you plan?
So the thing is, you now reduce your planning horizon and you now hedge more. So let me tell you the thing about emerging markets. You have these these uncertainties, but it is these uncertainties that also bring more money. That's why you make more money in emerging markets than developed markets. For instance, if you are in Nigeria, it's easier to start a business and profit from business than if you're in Canada, you're going to be working, can hardly start it. So it is one of these inefficiencies. So you now have to start planning, what do I do when these inefficiencies happen? Why do you think that you have a companies? Why do you think that our companies are diversifying into the region, to West Africa and doing all this? That is all of it. Something bad is happening here. That is one. Number two, you have to build it into your price. That uncertainty. That's why margins are very wide. Margins in this part of the world are very wide. Unlike other parts. I just told you about it. How do you sell a 1,000 naira for 5,000? But it's normal here. It's normal. Think about the food you order. You all cook. Most of many of you cook. The food you order versus how much you pay for it. Or if you go to a restaurant now to sit down. Let's say you go to a restaurant now to sit down. I took some colleagues to one place, one seafood place. Unfortunately, they were ladies. You know? And then when you take guys, they order with compassion. Ladies don't order with compassion. So as we were ordering, I was, you know how we did my guys. I was calculating. When they brought the bill, it was double what I calculated. Yeah, no double my calculation. If I tell you the amount there, after that day, in fact, when they say, then they are smiling in the office, I'll just be boring. But I don't want them to suggest that we should pay it. They are my junior colleagues, they did something very well. So I said, for this, now when they do something, I say, you have done very well. I just treat everybody. So yeah. But when I now do the mental calculation, those guys, there's no way they didn't make 50%. There's no way. Plus rent, plus generator, plus paying staff. That's the cost of the food and what I eat. You understand? So margins are quite attractive here, and that's to cover for those uncertainties. Any other question? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So we are done with all our sessions. However,